Hello, and welcome back to Random Vids. So, we are continuing with some more SpongeBobs. I hope you all are enjoying these series, and it seems to be getting a lot of views as well, so... I mean, it's SpongeBob, of course it's going to get a lot of views. Probably got the most views out of any of the rankings or top 10s that I've ever done. Well, never mind. The 101 Dalmatians, I think, had a little more. Anyway, so we've talked about a lot of the SpongeBob seasons so far, seasons 1 to 9. Not unfortunate. Fortunately, there's 3 more seasons that we haven't talked about yet. Seasons 10, 11, and 12. Whew, okay, so as I said, a lot of people said around like season 9 or even 8, the show started getting a bit better again. Some of the creators came back to kind of fix the broken, one-dimensional, weird era of SpongeBob. And in my opinion, they definitely fixed it all right. They fixed a lot of the problems that we've seen in seasons 6 and 7. And now, basically, now since it's been like 2 or 3 seasons since those bad ones, I'd say some of these seasons are like almost maybe some of my favorites. I'm not going to spoil if they are or not. You're just going to have to see when I rank all the seasons. But anyway, season 10, 11, and 12. Oh, I love these 3 seasons. And because today is going to be the negative side of things, I'm not going to lie, it was honestly really hard to pick out bad episodes in these 3 seasons because there is not a lot of bad episodes. Maybe like 1 or 2, but even like the worst episode out of the 3 seasons like don't even compare to stuff like from seasons 4 to 7. So even though there is a worst there is my I do have my least favorite episode, and no episode is perfect, no season is perfect, but you can't deny that these 3 seasons are really good. Sure, maybe not as good as the 3 original seasons, but you never know. Also, before I begin, I would just like to say my second channel, it hit 100 subscribers yesterday. So I've started that channel back in February of 2022, February 16th, I think it was, 2022, and under a year later, and we're up to 100, actually 101 subscribers already. That's crazy, and this channel's been going on for 3 years almost, and we're at 31. Maybe we could get to 40 by May 14th. I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, you can hope. Anyway, go look at that channel. It's not in the description because I always forget. Instead, it's in the community posts. So if you want to see my other channel, I linked it in the community post so you can see it there. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on to my top 10 least favorite SpongeBob episodes, the seasons 10, 11, and 12 edition. And number 10 will go to Library Cards. So here we are starting off with a season 11 episode. Honestly, I don't even think this episode is even that bad. Maybe just a little boring. Basically, Patrick comes over to show SpongeBob his favorite show while SpongeBob's reading books. So SpongeBob shows Patrick the different ways of reading books. Like the cliffhangers, for an example, or logboat books. So then Patrick starts reading these books, and then he ends up getting smart because he read these books. Unfortunately, though, his head is ginormous now, and he's kind of stuck in the library. So then SpongeBob has to find ways to get Patrick dumb again, and the only way is for Patrick to watch his favorite show again. Then the episode kind of ends where it starts. You see, like I said, I don't think this episode is bad. It's kind of creative. I love all the different books and stuff, especially since we rarely see SpongeBob's library. I think the problems start, however, when Patrick just gets smart, because then you think, wait a minute, I've seen this before. And yes, you'd be correct, because we got Patrick Smartpants back in season 4. Patrick Smartpants, I think, was a pretty interesting and cool episode, where Patrick was the complete opposite himself. This one, I feel like, is just more of a weaker rehash of that one. Instead of us seeing Patrick act differently around all the fellow Bikini Bottom residents and his friends, it's just Patrick in the library stuck. So we don't really get to see much this time. Plus, Gary's a little annoying just because he's only there just to read books, and then when Patrick comes in, he hisses at Gary. Or he hisses at Patrick. Like I said a million times, Gary's just not for me. I do love the part where those cartoon characters are all of a sudden now inside of Patrick's head, destroying each other with parts of the building that his brain built. It's hard to explain. Overall, I don't think this is a bad episode. I just think it's a little boring, and they tried to reclash an old episode, but it just didn't work. I would much rather see one of the main characters become opposite again. Like Gary. What if Gary was, I don't know, a cute dummy? I think that would be Gary's opposite. I don't know. Then we saw Patrick in season 4, and then like Squidward in season 5, and SpongeBob. We saw Mr. Krabs, I believe, a few times. I don't know. We didn't really have a Mr. Krabs centered one. It was just more of him in some episodes. We got Plankton and Sandy, so we need someone else. We don't need a reclash of those ones because they're all of them are good enough. Why? Yeah. Overall, I don't hate this episode, and it isn't even bad. It's just more boring overall. So, yeah, number 10. Let's move on to number 9, which is Man Ray Returns. So, unfortunately, because both Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's voice actor passed away, we don't really get to see them much anymore. I mean, yeah, that doesn't mean they don't make appearances, and heck, they even made an appearance in this episode, but they just don't talk anymore. Which is why the last true Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode we got was from season 8, which I think was the Origins or something like that. The Origins, or was the one where Mermaid Man, the Man Ray is helping out Plankton. But heck, at least we got to see Man Ray again. Man Ray's a pretty interesting character. I mean, you gotta love one of his episodes from season 2, where SpongeBob and Patrick are trying to teach him how to be good. And then you have the old, "That's not my wallet" scene, and yeah, I'm getting too much off topic here. This one, however, yeah. Anyway, another season 11 episode where Squidward goes on vacation and someone's gonna rent out his house while Squidward is gone. This, of course, is none other than Man Ray. And SpongeBob and Patrick are playing Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, find Man Ray in Squidward's house, and of course want to try to beat him up. Unfortunately, though, Man Ray isn't there for evil, he's just there for a vacation. But SpongeBob clearly says, "Evil never takes a vacation." So then Man Ray goes back to his evil ways and, beats up SpongeBob and Patrick, as well as Squidward's house as well, because, why the heck not? And the episode ends with Squidward coming home early because of a hurricane, and because the house is so messed up, they're going to have to glue it back together with super saliva. And then Squidward comes home and the house breaks. So, technically, this can be another Squidward torture episode. Honestly, yet again, I don't really find it a bad episode. It's just more of a boring episode, but just less creative than Library Cards. It also kind of feels like the one from season 8 where they're playing golf and destroying Squidward's house, but just less creative because SpongeBob and Patrick are like even more stupid here. It also is kind of annoying because they were like this in the same way back in season 6 where we got that Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode Shuffleboarding, and Man Ray's just there, just being himself, not even doing anything evil, and SpongeBob and Patrick are like, "Oh, it's Man Ray, that means he immediately has to be in jail, right?" But it's fine for Plankton if he's out wandering, then he doesn't need to go to jail. But if it's Man Ray out wandering, then that's a different story, I guess. Overall, it's not really a bad episode, it's just another one of those really boring ones. There's just nothing to it. Except you gotta hate SpongeBob and Patrick for destroying Squidward's house for the 5 millionth time and then ruining Man Ray's vacation. You know what? I'm gonna go back to the season 2 episode. That one was actually really good with SpongeBob, Patrick, and Man Ray. Anyway, not much else I really have to say here. Overall, I just think it's pretty boring. It may be a little bad, but I still don't really consider it bad. Let's move on to number 8, which is King Plankton. So this is a season 12 episode, King Plankton. I've only watched this episode and all of season 12 only twice, but even watching this episode twice, I can already tell you it's not my favorite episode at all. Basically, it's SpongeBob thinking that Gary is drinking the sea chimp water that he somehow randomly has now, so he asks Karen to look over after it, and of course, Plankton's there too, and he wants to get a closer look. So he shrinks himself down to be the size of the sea chimps, well, except a little bigger, of course. Because he's the biggest, he is the king. The king gives him the, crown, to make him king. And then he tortures all the sea chimps, they get mad at him and they tie him up to two pillars, like Samson's style. But all of a sudden, the water is getting eaten, well, not the eaten, but drinking again. Oh no, did SpongeBob's pet sneak into the chum bucket? I told you Gary was evil. He's trying to kill all these poor chimps. Oh no, but it's not Gary, it's actually Patrick who is doing it the whole time. Because, if it's not Gary, of course it's going to be Patrick. Then Plankton bites Patrick's tongue, and then all of the sea chimps are now inside of Patrick. Because, Patrick ate them. And then they all become large randomly. SpongeBob's about to go back to the chum bucket to check on his chimps, I think it is, or to pick them up. And then he sees Patrick, and then they all run out of his mouth, I believe, at the end. I don't know. I can remember a lot of episodes in Season 12, even after watching them twice, but this one is just kind of forgettable, not gonna lie. It's one of those episodes where you gotta hate every character. You hate Plankton because he's torturing everybody. The sea chimps are annoying. Patrick is annoying. Ugh. Who am I supposed to like here? Karen, I guess. Yet again, I don't think the episode is necessarily bad. I just think it's, not necessarily boring. And the sea chimps are just pretty unlikable characters. We've seen better Plankton characters, like Spot, for an example. Or even Karen and his baby in the same season. The sea chimps are just kind of there, and Plankton's obnoxious, so if you like an obnoxious Plankton episode where he rules everybody, then here you go. Nothing much I really have to say about this episode. It's just boring mess. So let's move on to number 7, which is Gary Got Legs. So I can't remember how the intro starts. I believe it's when Gary is going slow, and then SpongeBob's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Gary." And then Gary just keeps going grumpily and then pulls SpongeBob along. I know that happens in one of the episodes. I don't know if it was this particular one or not. Also, yep, we got a Gary episode on the list because, of course we do. And it's a shame because the one we got last season in season 11 was actually pretty good. Chatterbox Gary, that one was actually a really good one. But Gary Got Legs, not so sure about this. So Gary gets legs from SpongeBob. So then he can walk now, I guess? Okay. So they end up going to a dog pet park or whatever. And Gary kicks a guy because, why the heck not? Because Gary's Gary. He has temper problems, so he ends up kicking a guy and to make him feel better. Or did he punch him? Like I said, I've only seen season 12 twice. I don't remember everything word from word. So Gary gets arms then from SpongeBob as well, because I guess the legs weren't enough. Once Gary ends up getting full control of his legs and arms, then it takes a turn for the worse. Now, because Gary knows how to do everything, SpongeBob ends up getting lazy and letting Gary do everything. Because his arms and legs just get kind of dried out, I guess. So 1 week of pampering later, and SpongeBob turns into this. I don't know what's worse, this or the episode from season 1, whatever that one's called. I Was a Teenage Gary. Let me know down in the comments, what SpongeBob snail looks worse, this one or the one from I Was a Teenage Gary? In my opinion, probably this one, because what is this? This ain't even a snail, it's just a weird square with a long tongue. And finally, it takes Mr. Krabs to come and notice SpongeBob's weird behavior, because all of a sudden Gary is now at the Krusty Krab, because, he knows how to do everything now. SpongeBob is the snail. It's like vice versa. Ah, wait, so is this the opposite episode of Gary, where he acts like a human now? Not really. His personality remains exactly the same, because when Mr. Krabs tries to help SpongeBob out, Gary refuses because he wants to have his legs and arms. Unlike Chatterbox Gary, where he was getting tired of it and then realized that Squidward was behind it all and wanted to end it and help his owner out, now he just is selfish and wants to keep the legs and arms to himself. Thank God Mr. Krabs has his choppers, and this is the first time I wanted Mr. Krabs to win, just because, I hate Gary, and Gary was in the wrong here, trying to keep the arms and legs, and trying to do everything SpongeBob would normally do. So thankfully, Mr. Krabs ended it all, and SpongeBob returned to normal then, and Gary returned to normal as well. Yet again, I wouldn't really consider this episode, terrible, but it's just odd and weird, and still kind of boring. If the SpongeBob creators want to make a good Gary episode, they're gonna have to do their homework like they did with Chatterbox Gary. But this one, Gary's annoying. Gary is super unlikable as he usually is, and SpongeBob is weird, and Mr. Krabs is the one we're actually rooting for here, which I guess is nice to see. Anyway, just another pretty meh episode of season 12. Let's move on to number 6, which is Senior Discount. Okay, this is an interestingly odd episode in season 12. It's kind of like the hippie episode from season 11 all over again, but I think maybe even worse. I don't know. Anyway, Old Man Jenkins enters the Krusty Krab, and Mr. Krabs is not fond of Old Man Jenkins. Because Old Man Jenkins is a senior, he gets to use a senior discount. And that's basically half a quarter or half a cent, whatever he threw into Squidward. And so our greedy man, Mr. Krabs, comes out and says, "No, Old Man Jenkins, you must pay the money for Mr. Krabs." And Old Man Jenkins snaps back and says, "No, it's a senior discount. Get out of here, Krabs," and hurts him, I think. I don't remember. So then that same game goes on until they start calling their ancestors out to see who's the oldest. Which is kind of interesting since this is the first time we saw Mr. Krabs' dad, and we got to see Grandpappy the pirate again. Heck, they even called their ghost ancestors back in a bunch of interesting ways, like seances and all the above. And it turns into just a big party of ghosts at the end. They kick Mr. Krabs and Old Man Jenkins out, and then they have a party. And then the episode just kind of ends. I just don't like... Old Man Jenkins is super unlikable in this episode. Like I said, it's basically just a reclash of the Hippies episode from season 11, and that's not really the best episode to do a reclash, since the Hippies weren't really likable either. But I could take the hippie episode. That one's okay. This one, however, it at least deserves the top 10 worst. I just don't like how it's just like, oh, you're a certain age, therefore you should be treated like a king. Like, no, no, no. You get treated fairly. And I don't like how it feels like Old Man Jenkins is kind of winning in this case. And so all of a sudden, oh, I guess if you can't win, then no one can win. This is the same stuff we got in Yours, Mine, and Mine. The dumb, fine, if I can't have it, then no one can have it. It's such a dumb message, and I hate it. It would have been nice if Old Man Jenkins realized what he was doing and then said, okay, yeah, I'm sorry for being an old grumpy coot. And, I mean, we did kind of see that in the season 11 episode, the one where SpongeBob goes to the surface and finds all the trash. But at least in that episode, Old Man Jenkins gets treated fairly. And he gets what he deserves, even if he didn't deserve it. That's besides the point. Basically, Old Man Jenkins is really unlikable, and Mr. Krabs gets really annoyed at him. It's just, like I said, it's if you've seen There's a Sponge in My Soup from season 11, this is the same episode except with Old Man Jenkins instead of the hippies. I think maybe this episode might be the first one that I could consider a bad episode. Yeah, I think it is. Plus, it's the same episode that we've seen already. Nothing much else I have to say. So let's move on to number 5, which is this episode, whatever it is. No, it's not housewarming, worming, whatever that one is. I don't hate that episode like some say. I don't hate that episode at all, actually. I think it's an alright one. But the short we got after housewarming, the clams, I think it's called, Clam Up, the Prickles episode, whatever it is. Now that was a pretty unnecessary short. Wait, did I say clams? You know, like the episode we got in season 3? That episode was actually really good. A Squidward, SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs episode together. This one is not. So in housewarming, we got Prickles, who is a worm. And because why not, we had a short right afterwards? It's basically just Prickles' life before he went inside SpongeBob and had the party. Basically, Prickles lives in a can and gets tortured by this clam. And then the clam eats his home, and it just... Then Prickles runs away and ends up in SpongeBob's house, where we see in housewarming. I don't even think the short is bad. It's just so boring. It's one of those, it's so boring, like, it's bad. First off, Prickles isn't really the most likable character anyway. I would much rather have a short focused on one of the other better characters, like Spot, for an example. We didn't see him at all in season 10. Or maybe even the birthday boy Billy from the Krusty Cat Catering video. Catering, whatever you call it. Prickles, though, yeah, it just wasn't necessary. Like, that was the problem. And then the clam's very annoying. It's just a big bully to Prickles, and we just, yeah. It's just a stupid short. There's nothing I really have to say about this one. I would like to say this is the only episode you're going to see from season 10. Season 10 was so short, and they just didn't have really any bad episodes this season. So I guess the worst is the short that we got this season. But season 10 was so short, and the episodes we got were actually really, really good, for the most part. Like, not even Housewarming I don't think is even that bad. Not like people say it is. Um, you know what? Okay. I'll pick an episode in this season for an honorable mention, but I'm not gonna pick any others because season 10 is so good. Like, there's barely any. There's no bad episodes this season except for this one. So this is the only season 10 episode you're gonna get on this list, but I guess I'll pick one for an honorable mention. Let's move on to number 4, which is Ink Lemonade. Well, here you go. Here's your season 11 Squidward torture episode, I guess. It's simple. Patrick wants to sell lemonade, so he doesn't know how to sell the right lemonade because it's just water at the beginning. So when Patrick accidentally scares when SpongeBob accidentally scares Squidward, he sprays ink out and Patrick thinks it's black lemonade. So then we get to see what everyone loves the most. Are you ready? Okay, listen closely. Alright, you listening? Ready? Squidward torture. You know, the one thing that made season 6 and 7 so terrible? Guess what? 11 seasons later and it's not gone. Well, okay, they do a lot better in these seasons. The rule is, I guess, that one episode has to be focused on a Squidward torture, and that's it. I mean, I like this rule a lot better than what we got in season 6 and 7, where every episode had to be one-dimensional filler bad mess. This one is bad, but I don't think it's the worst episode ever. After seeing Squidward get tortured for so long, he finally notices that they're selling it for black lemonade. So Squidward says, "How would you like it from the source?" So then they know where it came from. And once this big guy scares Squidward, he ends up spraying black lemonade on everybody. Or ink. Now you got me saying it. So then at least the ending is okay, with SpongeBob and Patrick realizing, oh yeah, we should have sold black lemonade. Here's some cookies instead. Oh, but they have spider eggs in them. Which of course Squidward eats, and then the episode ends with Squidward spraying the screen with black ink. Oh boy. So for a lot of people, I think they could say this was probably one of the worst episodes like they've seen in a while, and heck, even probably the worst episode in the whole show. Well, I guess it depends on the people who like really hate this episode and then the people who really hate things like One Course Meal. In all honesty, Squidward isn't too terribly tortured in this episode. Besides him getting scared, at least he isn't getting hurt like he used to. He's just getting scared, so it's still considered Squidward torture because they're doing this on purpose and they know it, but at least Squidward isn't getting hurt. Besides the fact that he's losing ink like crazy, but he isn't getting hurt like he used to in those season 6 and 7 episodes. Like, look at Cephalopod Lodge or Choir Boys compared to this. Squidward got tortured, hurt, stung, and just betrayed and embarrassed by SpongeBob and a whole bunch of other people. This episode, he more just gets scared off by Patrick, so I don't feel like it's quite as torturified as those episodes. Heck, I even think One Course Meal is worse than this episode, and One Course Meal was an honorable mention, while this is on the top 10 list. This just goes to show how much better the creators have gotten at this stuff. No, yeah, Ink Lemonade definitely ain't a good episode, though. Especially in compared to the other awesome episodes we got this season, Ink Lemonade definitely is not one of them. SpongeBob is back to his dumber than Patrick, and Patrick's back to the dumber than the dumbest person in the world type of thing. and Squidward's back to the torture stuff, but like I said, at least it's only for one episode. And thank the Lord he found out about Patrick selling it, because if Squidward would have never done that, we could have gotten the rest of the episode with Squidward getting tortured. So yeah, don't get me wrong, it's bad, but I think we've gotten worse in Squidward tortures. So it's one of the worst, but, well, for these 3 seasons, but nothing compared to the stuff we got earlier. Anyway, let's move on to number 3, which is Cuddly Hugs. You see, this is definitely a more worse season 11 episode. Where do I begin? So SpongeBob starts by eating a moldy Krabby Patty, which is, for starters, extremely out of character. I thought we were past the one-dimensional stuff, which we are, but I guess SpongeBob never forgets what happened to him in mid-seasons? So anyway, SpongeBob eats a moldy Krabby Patty, which he's really rejected a lot in the show. Like Nasty Patty, for an example. He wouldn't have wanted to eat that thing. Or in Born Again Krabs, where Mr. Krabs eats the patty thinking nothing's wrong with it, and SpongeBob doesn't want to sell it. SpongeBob clearly knows it's moldy, but still eats it because why not? Okay, well, yeah, this is the same sponge who fell in love with a Krabby Patty who turned moldy at the end. Anyway, so once he eats this moldy patty, Cuddly Hugs appears. He's this giant hamster thing who definitely doesn't look creepy at all. I mean, he's a hamster. Of course he can't be creepy, because hamsters aren't creepy, right? Right? There has to be someone who doesn't think Cuddly Hugs isn't creepy. Yeah. The name alone, Cuddly Hugs, just makes you think, what? And then it gets weird, because then SpongeBob and Cuddly Hugs are playing, while SpongeBob's also kind of getting hurt. Is this nice? Is this not? I'm confused. And the whole time we see SpongeBob hug Cuddle and just roll around on his body in the most weirdest ways ever. It just turns disturbing then. But when Cuddly Hugs disappears, SpongeBob doesn't know why. Until he eats the moldy Krabby Patty again, and Cuddly Hugs returns. It's super annoying how attached SpongeBob is to Cuddly Hugs. We had an episode in this season about this modern car or whatever named Coop, and when Coop was rude to SpongeBob, SpongeBob wasn't like, "Oh, why don't you like me?" SpongeBob takes the smart way out in that episode. This episode, though, even with all of Cuddly Hugs' signs and stuff, SpongeBob still doesn't see any problem with him. And then SpongeBob gets upset that no one can see Cuddly Hugs, so then everyone eats the moldy Krabby Patty, so we get to see yet again more, ugh. And then they can all see Cuddly Hugs, but little do they know, Cuddly Hugs is hungry, so he ends up eating everybody with this creepy face. He is hungry, so he wants to eat everybody. Everyone wakes up, blames SpongeBob, they all walk away. SpongeBob asks Cuddle why he was doing that, and then gives him a Krabby Patty, and he turns into a real-life hamster. I just realized how long this episode feels. I just feel like SpongeBob's really out of character in this episode, being, like, stupider than Patrick yet again. And Cuddly Hugs is just creepy. He's just giant, odd hamster thing. He even has, like, creepy music playing along with him every time he's on screen. Heck, he even has a creepy voice to match. Like I said, this is, I don't know. At least something like Ink Lemonade, even I could see them maybe trying, but what is this mess? Yeah, after seeing this episode even, I'm confused. Is it bad? Is it good? Is it scary? Is it creepy? Is it odd? Is it funny? Is it stupid? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this episode. Overall, I think it's a bad Season 11 episode, just from Cuddly Hugs himself. He's just this very, very unlikable character. Heck, maybe even more unlikable than Gary. Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious. Overall, Cuddly Hugs is easily not just one of the worst characters in SpongeBob, but one of the worst episodes in Season 11. Let's go to number 2, which is Squirrel Jelly. We all knew this episode was going to be on here somewhere, and here it is, good old number 2. Basically, Sandy plays rough with SpongeBob and Patrick, at the beach, so they end up going to Jellyfish Fields to try to get away from her, but lo and behold, she ends up teleporting to Jellyfish Fields because that's how Sandy works. So Sandy plays rough there and gets completely out of character and starts kidnapping the jellyfish because why not? Because, Sandy has definitely done that before, right? Yeah, I know, Sandy isn't one of my favorite characters, but she's never gone this far. So finally, after seeing what she's done with Jellyfish Fields, she ends up going and rethinking what she's been doing. Unfortunately, the jellyfish turned into this giant jellyfish, which she created because, Sandy just had to get 180 on us here. I don't know why. And the big jellyfish goes to Sandy's home. And Sandy's trying to learn peace and calm. So finally, Sandy had enough and destroys the jellyfish. That giant jellyfish. It's overall, yet again, just such a boring mess of an episode. If there's an episode in season 11 that's worse than Cuddly Hugs, I guess it'd have to be Squirrel Jelly. For starters, Sandy already isn't my favorite character. She's had some bad episodes, well, especially back in the day, with stuff like Pressure and Squirrel jokes, but ugh. Squirrel Jelly, really? It just makes this character even more unlikable than she already is. Because, Sandy always beats up her friends and captures jellyfish. That's just totally in character. And the whole scene with her learning calmness and stuff just really dragged on. I thought we were past the A 180 characters / one-dimensional characters and B the filler nonsense. This episode is just a pain to watch, and there's just nothing else I really have to say. Sandy is unlikable, and there you go. Before we get to number 1, let's talk about a few honorable mentions. Whirly Brains. Okay, this is the season 10 episode that I was going to put on the honorable mentions, I guess. And even then, I don't think this episode is really even that bad. It's just a little more boring than some of the others. It's a little disturbing seeing Patrick and SpongeBob without eyes and their brains floating around. It's a little weird, but yet again, as I said, it's not the worst thing ever. It's just a little more boring for a first episode in season 10. And the old-timer who steals their brains is kind of unlikable too, so, He's not the most unlikable character either, just because he's an old-timer and he's a little weak, so he can't ever, defeat anyone like Sandy. Plus, he turns good at the end, and we get a happy ending overall. Overall, I don't hate this episode, but I felt like choosing an episode for the honorable mentions in season 10, and this is probably the worst out of the others. Maybe. Even that's too harsh. I don't think this episode's really bad at all. Maybe just a little boring, but it's not really that bad. Surf and Turf. Okay, yeah, this episode's definitely worse than Whirly Brains. Anyway, it's just another one of those dumb Sandy episodes. She gets grumpy because none of her ship in a bottles work, so she gets Mr. Krabs over to help her. So Mr. Krabs ends up building a ship out of Sandy's tree, which pisses Sandy off, and Mr. Krabs tries to drive away, and Sandy tries to stop him. So then the only in the bottle that wins is Sandy, because she somehow gets stuck in her helmet, and she wins. Because, Sandy always has to win. So then in payback, she makes Mr. Krabs rebuild her tree with the wood out of the ship. Whether if you're with Sandy or against Sandy, it just feels like another one of those dumb fighting episodes. We get a lot of these in the modern seasons, but I'm always for Mr. Krabs. I don't like Sandy. Even if, Sandy is sort of in the right, Mr. Krabs only did it because Sandy did invite him, so, it is sort of Sandy's fault. If Sandy couldn't trust Mr. Krabs because she thought that he was gonna take over and win, then she shouldn't have called him in the first place. And Mr. Krabs wasn't even like that at all, like he is in some episodes. He was trying to help Sandy out, and even, wanted both to win, until Sandy snapped, then Mr. Krabs was like, alright, then I'll just do it for myself then. It's another one of those dumb Sandy wins because she's a brat and needs to win type of episodes. Call the cops. I don't know how I feel about this one. It's basically just another one of the Mr. Krabs versus Plankton episodes, but now they're in jail. Well, we actually get a really, really unlikable police officer this time who takes Plankton away and then the Krabby Patty formula because, why the heck not? Because she needs it for evidence, but Plankton didn't even steal it? It just doesn't make any sense. So Mr. Krabs goes and tries to take it back along with SpongeBob, and the episode ends with all of them ending up going to jail. Along with Patrick because, why not? The episode's kind of interesting. I just think the police lady is super unlikable, so because of that, she makes this episode immediately worse. Crusty concessionaries. Basically, it's like Smooth Jazz and Bikini Bottom and Krusty Catering put together, and then you have this one. Which I guess ain't the worst thing ever, because Krusty Catering is an awesome episode, but Smooth Jazz and Bikini Bottom? Ugh. Overall, it's just extremely boring, with a lot of Squidward torture in it, which is never a plus. So there's not much I really have to say here. Just a boring mess of a Season 12 episode. Now let's move on to number 1, which is Quarantined Crab. I mean, this episode just had to be it. It just had to be number 1. The episode is so bad that it got banned. Like, it literally got banned. It isn't on the DVD that I have, so I had to kind of watch it at a later time. So at least I finally got to watch it, but I mean, you're not missing much. So about 3 years ago, everybody in the world got surprised with one of the worst things that's ever happened. The coronavirus. So imagine that, but just in a SpongeBob episode, so in 11 minutes. Basically, a health inspector comes in and says, one of you guys are sick, so you all have to quarantine inside the Krusty Krab. So all of them are all scared of each other, thinking that one of them has the virus. I forget what they even mentioned what it was, but it wasn't coronavirus, thank God, but it was something else. Mr. Krabs goes insane and throws everyone in the freezer, and then they all think maybe it's Mr. Krabs. So then they chase Mr. Krabs only for the health inspector to come back and tell them all that it was actually false. None of them were sick. But at that time, by that point, everyone is just insane, so I don't really remember this episode this much just because I've only seen it one time. But like I said, the episode is so bad that it's banned, which I can clearly see why. When you go to watch SpongeBob, the last thing you want to see is a reference to real life. You try to escape real life, not get reminded of it. But even how good Season 12 was, that doesn't mean it's not going to have the worst episode in it. There's just nothing I have to say about this episode that hasn't been said already. I don't think it's the worst SpongeBob episode of all time, but for these 3 seasons, I mean, let's be real. It's so bad it got banned. Of course it's going to be the worst out of these 3. All the characters just become really unlikable in this episode, and it gets reminded way too much of real life, so it's no fun. Like I said, I still don't think it's the worst episode ever, but definitely out of these 3 seasons. And woo! Even though I was talking negative about these seasons, honestly, I really love these 3 seasons a lot. They do have their bumps from areas from the mid-seasons that haven't improved yet, but they definitely improved a lot. A lot. Like, I feel like we're just going vice versa now. We started off with 3 good seasons, got worse, and now we're on the vice versa end. We're getting better, and now we're really good again. And it's fun seeing how these characters aren't one-dimensional anymore, and how fast-paced the show is now instead of slow-paced, which I take any day. Also, we're getting more likable new characters again, good episodes, and I love these 3 seasons. And yeah, we do have bad ones, but I think most of them are pretty good. But we'll talk about those next time as we talk about the best episodes. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.